Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I am Malahil Remote Job Wali and I am joining from Karachi, Pakistan. Today we are honored to host our distinguished guest who has made remarkable contribution in the realm of business development and leadership. His name is Carl, a visionary leader with over 25 years of experience in market-facing business development. Carl's exceptional journey includes transformative roles and leadership, have significantly influenced market growth and venture capital, making him respected figure in the business community. So, as we welcome Sir Carl, we look forward to diving into his life journey, understanding his strategies, and uncovering this insight he has gained from his illustrious career. So let's give a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Mr. Carl. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me, Manahel. Good to talk to you.
It's my pleasure. So first of all, sir, before moving on question, can you please introduce yourself for my
Sure.
viewers?
Yeah. My name is Carl Grant. I'm the third. I have to say that because my son is the fourth and he works with me, and my dad is still alive too. And so I live in Austin, Texas. I'm married to a beautiful woman, and I have five adult children. My youngest is 20 years old, and he goes to Baylor University. My oldest, I work with. I won't take you through all five of them, but I am a strong
Hi
person of
everyone, my
faith.
name is Rehan.
Is there somebody talking, Manahil? I heard somebody else. So
Now my
I'm a
mic is mute. Can you please
anyways. So to go on, I'm a strong person of faith. I became a Christian at the age of 24, but after becoming a Christian 10 years later, I wanted to learn what the other half of the world believed. So I read the Quran, and so I have a very close affinity with the Muslim people as I tried to build bridges between Christians and Muslims. And so I've been to Pakistan twice and have spoken on cultural similarities and differences. And I did that in Lahore, and then I visited Karachi, and then I was invited back to speak at Connected Pakistan in Islamabad. And in fact, I just got back a few days ago, and I expanded that talk on religious or on cultural similarities and differences to include religious similarities and differences. And it was a little daunting to do that because I didn't know how well it would be received. I tested it out on a Pakistani friend of mine here in Austin, and she said she liked it, and she encouraged me to do it. So I went ahead and did it, and it was very well received. In fact, I've received many kind messages from the loving people in Islamabad.
all right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your wonderful introduction. So now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Can you tell us about your journey and how you achieved such significant success in business development?
Well, so what's interesting was I graduated. So in America, it's a little different, I think, than in the Middle East, where people are born into kind of a faith tradition and they stay with that tradition throughout their life. In America, United States, people tend to change their minds on things. And so as I was at graduate school studying, that's when I came to faith. And by coming to faith, all of a sudden the world looked different to me. All of a sudden, I wasn't as focused on myself. I was focused on other people. I cared more about other people, as the religious texts teach us to do, right? And so what happened was when I first got out and started doing business development, I had to figure out how to put my faith into action. And so in our tradition, we're told to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so by doing these things, by going and acting in the interest of the people I was talking to, I found that it actually had a tremendous effect on people wanting to do business with me because it was so unusual, right? And so that might seem like a funny answer to you, Menahil, but that's honestly how it worked. And so when I would meet with people, rather than trying to sell them something, I would see what I could do to be of service to them. And so that is the secret to my success in business development.
All right, sir. That's great. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. What were your key strategies in leading a 17% team at Cooley to help add 1.7 billion in revenue?
Yes. So I am a I'm not a micromanager. You know, when you work for somebody, sometimes people like watch you very closely and manage every little thing that you do. That's the opposite of who I am. And so what I tried to do was I tried to hire the best people. And I'd hire the best people and I would give them my methodologies of how I did my job. I would show them, I would help them set goals for themselves, and then I would let them do their job. I wouldn't micromanage. I would be there to help them if they needed help. And then I would meet them to make sure they were getting the support they needed. But then I went out and I did business development myself. I didn't just manage 17 people. I was out doing more business development than any of them, to be honest with you, because I enjoyed doing it. So that's what I did. And we would set not too aggressive goals. We would set achievable goals, but we would always bypass our goals every year. So I had a great team.
All right, that's awesome, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So now let's move on to the next question. My next question is on the screen. At PricewaterhouseCooper, you achieve 33% market share increase in just 2 years. How did you accomplish this?
Yeah. So when I did PricewaterhouseCoopers. Those were two separate firms when I first met them. It was Pricewaterhouse and Coopers and Library. This was a long, long time ago. And so what happened was I was doing a job doing capital attraction, managing capital attraction for an economic development authority. And I had gotten to know a lot of venture capitalists. And because I was effective at doing it, when those two firms merged together, they reached out to me and they wanted me to help them present a united front to the marketplace. And I didn't really want to do a business development job. And then I went spent most of my life doing it. It seemed like kind of like a sales job. And I I thought selling accounting work sounded really boring. And so when I got there, but then they paid me good money. And so because they paid good money, I took the job. And it was a lot more than I was making in my old job. And so I went over there and I, I'm married to an auditor. So an auditor is an accountant, right? And so I know what they do, and it's not very exciting. And so I I realized nobody wanted to be sold audits. So I went around and I listened to what all of the accountants did, and I realized that what was really interesting wasn't so much what they did, it's who they did it for. Their clients were some of the biggest companies in the world and most of the venture funds in the United States, at least, and around the world. And so I realized that every emerging company had an interest in getting to know customers and funding sources. And so I made it my business to become a super connector. I would introduce companies that we were bringing on as new emerging clients and introduce them to large companies who could be their customers and funding sources who could invest in them. And that was very effective.
All right, sir. Great, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, as the founding board member of the Austin Venture Association, what goals did you have and how have they evolved?
So when I got to Austin, Texas, I moved here about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. I realized that this was coming out of COVID, right? And so what happened in the United States during COVID was a lot of people moved to Texas. It became one of the most popular places in the country for people to move because the restrictions were very, very severe in California and New York. And so people who didn't want to be locked up in their homes and have to wear masks all the time, and they had very strict vaccine policies and so forth. Texas was a different place. We were not as strict. We wore masks inside at in some places, but for the most part, I didn't really wear a mask. And we still got together, and we were still social, and none of us died. It was a good place to be free. And so a lot of people that wanted to be free, I'm sure everybody in the world has heard that Elon Musk moved to Austin during COVID, right? The famous guy who does Tesla. Yeah. So he moved here right after I got here, and then the whole world followed him here. Joe Rogan is another one. He's a famous podcaster who moved to Austin, Texas. And when influential people like that move, other people follow them. So when I got to Austin, I realized that all of the old timers, the old venture capital community that were here in Texas for many, many years, they didn't know all these new people who were coming. There were like a ton of people coming from California and New York, and I was getting to know all these people, but they weren't. And so I realized that there was no organization to bring these folks together so they could get to know one another. And so I formed the Austin Venture Association to create that sense of community, and it's worked well. And so now the challenge now is to turn it into a sustainable business model. And I have a team there that's working on doing that.
Okay, sir, amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, what were your main approaches in doubling the number of venture funds in the Fairfax country market in 2 years?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So I was doing this job probably before you were born. It was a long time ago. It was 1996 to 98. Okay, a very long time ago. That was the beginning of the internet. And you know where the internet, we're talking over the internet right now, but you know where the internet began? It began as a government project right outside of Washington, D.C. And so all of the guts of the internet, all of the internet service providers, if you wanted a domain, you had to go to Network Solutions in Fairfax County, Virginia. If you wanted a website, you had to get it from a company in Fairfax County, Virginia. If you wanted to, and then when wireless became a thing, all of the wireless providers were there in Fairfax County, Virginia. And so what we had in that office, the economic development office, was we had 10 years of documented history of entrepreneurs leaving Northern Virginia and going to California and Boston and other places where they could raise money for their startups and moving away. And so that was a brain drain. Could you imagine if everybody left Karachi to go, to Lahore to do their businesses, and there were no entrepreneurs left in Karachi, right? So that wouldn't be good for the economy, right? There wouldn't be jobs for people, right? So you might have to move to Lahore to get a job. So that's what was happening. They were all moving away. And so my job was to keep them there and to get the money, the capital investment sources to come there. And so what I did was I managed to keep 100% of the companies that we were trying to keep in that county there. I kept them all there. I visited them all. And then I was able to recruit venture funds to relocate to Fairfax County, Virginia, doubling the number of venture funds while I was there. The internet was a pretty easy sell. As you can imagine, at the beginning of the internet, all the investors wanted to come and know what was going on. And so I knew what was going on because I was there.
All right, sir, great. So now let's move on to the next question. You have vast network of over 16,000 CXOS boards members and investors. How do you maintain and leverage this network effectively?
Well, it's really hard to stay in touch with that many people, to be honest with you. That's a lot of people. So I could not possibly meet with that many people or even talk with that many people in a year. It's just too much, right? And so I leverage social media to stay present with those followers, right? And so by posting meaningful information on LinkedIn, I'm able to stay present in front of them and stay top of mind, because you never know when it might be time to do business with one of those professionals, right? And sometimes if they see what you're doing and they see what you're posting, then they will engage with you. I also try to, and I'm not perfect at this, but I try to wish people happy birthday, right? That's one way to stay in touch with them. And then the other thing I do is I also connect on other social media platforms with them. So some people keep their Facebook and Instagram very personal. I don't. Okay. I find that it's a good way to allow um, people who know me from a business context to know more personal things about me. And so that helps them feel like they know me better. So somebody I might not have seen in 10, 15 years, I haven't seen them, but they've been following what I do. They've followed my trip to Pakistan. I put the more personal, aspects of my trip on social media. They follow my children. They know my children's names. I think that's a better way of staying close to people. Yeah, so that's what I do.
That's great. You are doing so great. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, what trends do you see shaping the future of business development and market growth?
Well, this is an interesting question because with the advent of AI, there's a lot of folks that think that they're going to be able to develop business using AI tools. And I watch how people go about doing it. They do a lot of cold outreach. In my experience, is cold outreach is not effective, especially when you're selling like high end professional services. That's what I do. I work with high end professional services. These are expensive services, and they're not. It's not like you're buying a tube of toothpaste on Amazon. This is a very expensive service, and it's based on relationships, right? And so I think what we're going to see is as the world becomes more and more impersonal, like through AI and all this online stuff. I think the value of people that actually take the time to develop personal relationships with people in person that value is going to go up. So yes, I'm doing a podcast with you right now, and maybe thousands of people are going to watch, but it's not the same as me. Like when I went to Islamabad, that's a really big deal. Not too many Americans go to Islamabad, and I went over the home of two of my friends there, and it was very nice. I spent a lot of time. I had dinner with a family, and then I sat and I just talked with my other friend for hours. And those kind of relationships, you just don't build them over a Zoom call, right? You don't build them over social media or through an AI app, right? Those are real relationships where you're really getting to know people. And one of my good friends, I hope I don't embarrass her. Her name is Sibga, and she and I come from very different backgrounds. She dresses like you with the hijab, and she comes from a very traditional family, and she's much she's the age of my youngest child. So I look at her like a daughter. And I went over and I met her at a conference in Lahore in January, and she was fantastic. She made sure we had all of our needs met when we were at that conference, and she so impressed me that we hired her within our company. And we've had exchanges as people who work together do. But I know that it's very important in a traditional Muslim family to have the approval of the family if you're going to spend time and be friends with somebody. And so I met her father and I met her brother, and they got to know me, and they were so warm and inviting. It was so nice. And I entered into that circle of trust. And so when I spoke at the conference on Saturday, the rest of the conference was in Urdu, so I didn't want to listen because I don't understand it. So I went with Sibka, and she showed me around the city. It was beautiful. We went to the Faisal Mosque, and she prayed, and I actually met some people from Texas at the mosque, which is not something I expected to do. And then we went out for pizza, and that was fun. So I mean, that's personal time with somebody, right? That's how you develop relationships. All right. And then the other thing I wanted to say about the future of business development is um, there's no real training out there for people that want to do a job like the jobs that I've done. And so I have actually developed a training program, And I've gone out and I've delivered it to some very prestigious organizations, a law firm, an investment bank. I'm going to be doing an accounting firm and possibly a consulting firm. And so I really enjoy doing that. And I think by learning from people like me who have gone ahead and done this successfully in their careers, younger people can learn how to do it and not make some of the mistakes you might make if you don't have that type of training.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, um, what personal philosophies or practices have been most instrumental in your career success?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that. I just finished a book, and the book comes out on Tuesday, and so I don't know. I guess this is live, but if people watch this after the fact, and they're interested, it's called "How to Live the Abundant Life," and so it actually encapsulates a lot of my philosophies around how to do things. But what I did was I expanded it beyond just doing business development and doing professional development. I expanded it to the home and the community, right? And so I address things like finding your purpose, right? What is your purpose in life? Maintaining a sound mind, growing spiritually. Even though I do it from a Christian perspective, I've had people in Pakistan read it and they say it's very relatable. It's very similar, right? And so maintaining a healthy body, pursuing personal growth, developing and maintaining personal relationships, and those personal relationships turn into business as well. Establishing boundaries, right? You can't let everybody have a piece of you all the time, or else you won't have any time for your family. So how to establish boundaries, and then how to be likable, and then developing character and building a legacy, being part of a community, and how your mindset matters. That's what I address in the book. So it's how to live the abundant life, and I'm not sure where all it'll be available in Pakistan, but I know like in most of the world, Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com will be carrying it. And I know they will have it. I think I'm going to, if I come to Future Fest, which I'm planning to at the end of January, I hope to bring many copies of the book and to be able to sign them and give them to people there.
Okay, sir, great, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, what advice would you give to young professionals aspiring to succeed in business, development, and leadership?
So when I first launched out into my career, I told you I had that moment in my life where I came to faith, and one of the verses in the Christian Bible says, "He who wishes to be first must be last and servant of all." You may know this too, because I know Muslims believe in Jesus as well. So that was a quote from Jesus. Jesus said, he who wishes to be first, do you understand that? If you want to be first, you must be last and servant of all. When I heard that verse, when I read that, it blew my mind, because who doesn't want to be first, right? We all want to be first. But you don't get to be first by lording it over somebody, by like being like ruling over them. It's last and servant of all. And so take that posture as you're going out into the marketplace. If you want to be successful, serve the needs of others, right? And so I had to think about, what does that look like? And so you know what that looks like? When I was serving in the Army, I was a military officer, and the officers who are in charge of troops, in charge of soldiers, when it's time to eat, we don't go and get our food first. We wait for all of the soldiers to eat, and then we get our food and eat, right? That's last and servant of all, right? You follow that? And so if there's no food left over, guess who doesn't get to eat, right? The officer doesn't get to eat. And so that's putting the needs of others before yourself. And so when you go out to meet with people, don't try to see what they can do for you. Try to see what you could do for them. Help people find a job, help them find customers, help them find money, right? All those things. If you help people with what they need to accomplish in their business, they're going to want to work with you. That's how it works. But most people don't get that. Most people are out there like, what can you do for me? And that doesn't work. I run away from people like that.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful advice. Your advice is so inspiring. So, as we wrap up our enlightening conversation with Mr. Carr, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude for the invaluable insights and inspiring stories he shared with us today. His journey and achievements in business development and leadership are not just inspiring, but also serve as guiding light for aspiring professionals. Mr. Carl, your experience and the wisdom you we imparted today have adaptedly enrich our understanding of the business world. Your dedication to mentoring and guiding the next generation of leadership is truly commendable. So, to our audience, thank you for joining in this engaging sessions. I hope you found this conversation as inspiring and informative as I did. It's discussions like this that broaden our perspective and encourage to strive for excellence in your respective fields. So from Karachi, this is Manahil Rimorja Wali bidding your farewell. So until next time, thank you so much, sir, for giving me your precious time.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a